Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Male Medical.
Okay, what am I walking into? Is this Surly Coach Rhule, or are we?
No. I'm saying, like, where would I be? Like, I'm in my office.
I thought you might have been recruiting. You were out the other day. I didn't know if you were back.
Yeah, no. So the rule is head coaches can't go out in May.
Yeah,
April, May, we can't be out. So I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But so I do a lot of like, donor related stuff right now, and go see people and do stuff to help the program. But I can't. We have recruits here, so we actually have a kid here today. So I can visit with people when they come visit us.
Oh, what? So when is that? When are they going to change that? Do you think of when it can be out? Like, why are coaches limited?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we go out in January, assistant coaches can do home visits, but we can't do home visits for the next year's class. We can do like that, but all the kids are already enrolled. So it's a lot of there's a lot of rules that are vestiges of old times that don't make sense. I was always very proud, to try to go to every single player I was signing or recruiting, go to their house and sit in their home, and then when they came on their visit, have them come to our home, right? And if you remember when I came to recruit Caleb, I came to your house.
Yeah.
And he came on his visit. He came to my house, right? But I can't do that anymore, really. So it's they've changed things. I don't know. The calendars, so much has changed. College football. I shouldn't even say college football. Collegiate pro football. It's so different now that everything's changing rapidly.
Well, talking about changing calendars, obviously you guys shook things up this year with the spring practice and now basically flip-flopping winter conditioning and spring practice, right? Like, obviously I understand the reasonings for making spring practice early. What does that kind of do for you in the strength and conditioning part of things now, where that you've already gone through the spring portion? Like, how does that change, or does it change how you would normally run what is now kind of quote unquote winter conditioning?
Yeah, I thought it was elite. I thought it was awesome. One of the things they did was they moved up the academic year here in Nebraska. They moved up the spring semester. So we started on MLK Day. We started a week earlier. So that was part of the genesis of this, right? So, normally spring football takes 5 weeks. We basically did it in 4 weeks, plus the spring break. So whereas before I always believed in 8 weeks of training, spring break, and then spring football, I think we got 5 or 6 weeks. The number escapes me off the top of my head, but we still got 5 or 6 weeks of intense training, strength and conditioning. Then we got spring ball, which we did it condensed, like when Damon was playing. It was a 4 week. You did it 4 times a week for 4 weeks, and they changed that rule. And then people started going 3 times a week for 5 weeks. And then now on the back end, we have 5 weeks of training again, and then we have them all summer. So, I like right now, like we did mat drills this morning. We're doing some of our toughness things these 2 weeks, and it's way different, Ravi. When now I'm sitting out there running a drill, I know I've already seen them play football, right? Yeah. So I know who can help me and who can't in terms of in the fall. I know what a player needs to become a good player. Hey, I was just having a conversation with a young man down at the cafeteria, Eric Ingerson, who's I think had a really good spring. And I was like, hey, what's the biggest thing you're working on? And he talked about it. I'm like, well, let's work on that every day in the mat drills or in the weight room. Like, you had a chance now to self-identify. Like, I have a thing here of every single player, and every single every single player and every single coach. Like, what's one thing they need to improve, and what's one thing that they're doing really well? It's the best thing they're doing, the thing they need to improve. And now they have extra time to work on that, right? So in a world that it's much more individualized now, probably with these kids today than it was 10 years ago, they can look at the football and now incorporate that into their off-season plan and then into their summer plan.
I thought one of the unintended consequences of doing this, and Calandria he referenced it a little bit in the presser post-spring game, because guys kind of gravitated towards that quarterback room. Kalen is super likable. TJ's really competitive. But they gravitated towards Calandria right away too, even though he's got this bravado to him. And he said, when I first got here, we got right in the ball, so we got to bond over being on the football field and just playing ball. And I was thinking to myself, that has to have some advantages, because if I wanted somebody to get along with me, I don't want you to see me during downtime or like us just hanging out, because there's more of an opportunity for you to not to like what I'm doing. If we're collectively trying to get out there on the football field, you can get acclimated quicker to each other's temperament. Do you think playing ball early help with so many new guys on campus?
Yeah, I think that's the reason why we did it, right? Like I think I think even like like it's one thing when a player played for me for 4 years and then over time they knew like, hey, this is what the offseason is going to be like. This is what this like. Okay, when coach says this, he really means this. Like I got it, right? Now, like you bring in 18 portal guys, whatever it is, you bring in 10 or 12 high school kids every year. That's a third of your team that's brand new, right? And so I wanted them to get to know Coach Rhule, Coach Holgerson, Jeep, in a football standpoint. So we might be getting on them about being in class on time or this, that, and the third, but I wanted to get to know them about football, and I wanted them to see us as football coaches, us to get to know them as players, how they learn. They're able to go out there and do some football stuff now, and they all know what they're doing because they went through spring football. I mean, you can teach, but until you actually go out and do it in spring practice, it's hard to learn. And so, we would be finishing up spring ball right about now, and Anthony would be trying to, figure out the playbook still, right? But he was able to do that early. Larry Miles, as a freshman receiver, was able to do that early, learn. And then, honestly, in a football team, you know Damon better than anyone else, right? Like, guys respect guys who play hard and know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so some of those young guys came in there, or some of those new guys came in there and showed, hey, I'm a player. And, that allows them to earn respect, bond with each other. Now we can go back. And then the last thing is, a lot of guys were injured from the season or from preseason. They start to get cleared right about now, and they wouldn't have been able to do football. They're not cleared for football, but they are cleared for football movements and drills. And so you can get a Carter Nelson out there, and he can go out with Anthony or TJ and run routes and catch balls and work on his craft. So getting that done early, I think, had a lot of benefits.
Coach, you mentioned, as you're getting into mat drills and stuff, working on toughness. You mentioned just now in with spring practice stuff with just guys playing hard and other guys respecting them for that. Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. But especially now when, the rosters are more fluid than they've ever been, there's factors like NIL and stuff that make things a little bit wonkier than they've been ever before. How much, when you're looking across the landscape of college football and with your team, are you just looking at like, hey, if I can get guys that are tough and that play hard all the time, I'll be fine?
Yeah, I think I never want to diminish talent, right?
Sure.
At the end of the day, like, you have to be big, you have to be fat, you have to move, you have to run well enough for your position, you have to be quick enough for your position. But once that you have that requisite amount, right, then I think both physical toughness and mental toughness are the differentiator, and a word that I believe in is grit. It was a great book written by Angela Duckworth. And, it's one thing to be tough and to undergo some physical pain or undergo, some adversity one time. It's like, who has the grit, the mental and physical toughness to be passionate and persevere no matter what over a long amount of time. I think that's the biggest thing in today's society. I see it with my daughter sometimes, right? Like, when I grew up, I knew, like, hey, man, Scooby-Doo comes on at 4:00. I'm gonna be home at 3:55, and hopefully this is the one that has the Globetrotters on. Maybe this will be a Scooby-Doo with the Globetrotters on. And my daughters, if they want to watch that episode or whatever it is for them, they can go on their iPad and they can just search that episode out and watch it, right? Mm-hmm. And if they want to go get something, they can pause, they go get a juice box and come back. We couldn't do that, right? We used to take a picture and wait, and then go to the Kmart and wait for the pictures to come out. Now my daughter takes a picture, looks at it, doesn't like it, deletes it. I'm not complaining. It's just everything's so much more instantaneous. And so I think teaching mental and physical toughness, that's over time. We don't always all get what we want exactly when we want it. And most of us, when that happens, we just complain. We just feel sorry for themselves, or we blame someone else. And I'm looking for guys that can be physically tough, that will play hard, that look inward, not outward when things are not going well. And they will persevere through passion over a long amount of time. And so, that's the type of team we want to be. And that's not that we haven't accomplished that yet. Like, I thought our team 2 years ago on defense had some of that. Like, they would play hard every single game. Last year, obviously we had some ups and downs. And so to me, it's just continuing to try to develop this gritty mindset of just being the same guy every day, being unbelievably physical, playing unbelievably hard, and taking what you want. And so, I think that's got to be coached. I think it's got to be modeled. I can't change who I am because the end of last year did not go the way I wanted. I mean, I've got to be the same guy every day, or else I'll be teaching these players, hey, you know what the answer to do? The answer is to complain. The answer is to blame other people. The answer is to change. mean, you have to look at yourself and say, hey, what are things do I need to improve upon? I expect every player to do that, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater all the time. And I don't want players just changing everything about them. Just get a little bit better every day. And I think that's, those are the old school values, and they're probably more important now than ever before, in my opinion.
One of the things I mean, and far be it from me to get inside your head, even though we spent an inordinate amount of time together. I thought one of the things that was interesting was just your revamping of the staff. This is just my opinion. Like from afar, I liked a lot of the infrastructure, right? Like no off the field incidents. I thought guys were starting to get really disciplined. You have really high retention, but you had to make some changes, right? Obviously, O-line, what I know was difficult for you. Your D-line, you made staff changes. But one thing that I can see, and you'll say whatever you want to me anyway, but it looks like you were pretty intentional about getting teaching football guys in the building. No disrespect to anybody else, but you definitely seems like you've hired a mindset in the building.
Yeah, first of all, I thought the coaches that were here last year, I thought, Donnie and I thought John are excellent football coaches. Mm-hmm. And sometimes things are a bit just about fit. Sometimes things are about just time and place, right? And so, when I'm being self-critical, I thought last year, we finished the season. I'm talking about 2 years ago, right? We beat Wisconsin. It was kind of on a high. We went to Iowa. We shut, down the run game. We did really, and then we lost on the last second, and as things can sometimes get tempestuous, right? And so you had players, Tony White and Terrence left. And players were kind of going in the portal, and maybe I moved a little too quickly trying to stabilize everything. And so to me, I went through a process. They were good coaches. Just you have to make sure you have the right fit, right? And so, but I want to make sure I say that first, because it's not like, I think that's one of the problems we all have is like, it's coach's fault. Well, it's a combination of everything, right? It's my fault. It's the position coach. It's the coordinator. It's the players. We all share in this together, right? But I think one thing I want to say about the coaches I've hired, number one, they're excellent recruiters, and we're in a day and age now where you can't solve your problems with volume anymore, right? You can't go out and sign 30 kids because you don't have that much money to sign 30 kids, and so you need people who can go find the right players and the right fit for us, and then coach them. And then I wanted to have the right teachers who brought stuff that's stimulated the football here, stimulated my mind, stimulated each other's minds. And so whether it was Jeep or Lonnie, whether it was Roy Manning or Tyler Yelk or Rob Orich or Corey Brown, I'm really pleased with the guys we brought in, and I think we have a group of guys who like football, but also like young people and like coach them and like developing them. And not everything's going to be easy here. You have to develop players and get them to play better. And so I like the staff a lot. I enjoy being around them. I enjoy sitting in Rob Orich's meetings, right? I enjoy.
He's a gem.
Like you sit there, you listen to him and Coach Snow, and it's like, there's nothing off limits. Like they just, banter back and forth. And Addison had all 5 DBs. You split it with him and Tyler, and he's got no ego. He just wants to win, and I love that. So it's been a good melding, I think, of getting the right people in here. And then Jeep and Lonnie have been a lot of fun on offense. We've added some things run game wise. I think they're going to make us a lot better too.
Coach, when you're talking about time and place and fit, obviously we're talking about coaching staff, and I think, do you think that applies to players that you're recruiting as well? Like, do you sometimes look at a guy and you say, hey, this guy is really talented and maybe he's got the right attitude, but maybe he's a guy that with the temperament of our current team isn't necessarily the best fit for him? Does that apply to players too?
I think when you look at fit for a young player, I think you have to play. Basically, if you're looking at a freshman coming in, you have to put him in one of 2 buckets. Like, A, is he going to come in and contribute right away, right? Because there's a financial component to this, right? So you can't have your money sitting on your bench, right? We don't have as much as everybody else, right? Like, and everybody else doesn't have as much as each other. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we all don't. We just can't waste money, right? So, you sit there and say, hey, is this a guy who's going to come in and contribute right away? Or certainly in the first 2 years. And then, sometimes I miss the date, the guys who kind of develop, what would that have done if that was Emmett Johnson, right? Well, Johnny Bullock's over here the other day, and he's talking to the team. He's in Tampa, and then he went to the Colts. He had like 10 or 12 tackles this year in the National Football League on special teams, which was a great season. And he didn't play till year 4, and so as they cut the rosters, for the days of 160, 170, 180 players down to like 105, it's harder to have a walk-on program. And so, you have to divide them into that, like, hey, are you going to help right away? Or are they someone who's going to stick around and stay? And, I think you have to find, that's a big part of the fit, right? Are they going to just leave all the time? Are they going to, what's their mindset? Like you talked about toughness. Like, I think everyone thinks you can coach toughness, man. Like, you better recruit toughness. You better hire toughness, right? If you want a tough team, you better have a tough staff, and you better hire, you better recruit tough players. And so I think all those things relate to fit. And, you can't probably have, 5 starting quarterbacks anymore, ahead of 5-star quarterbacks. Like, they're going to leave. They're not going to stack behind each other. So finding guys who want to be here, who want to have the right fit, who want to develop, I think that's all of our jobs right now, is to figure out, hey, well, if we take this kid, how is he going to fit into our locker room, fit into our culture? And as much as anything, how long is he going to stay here if things are hard?
Coach, let me ask you something, because a lot of your person that I gravitate towards is like the common language and the consistency in the message. But you're in a landscape that's pretty fluid, but you still have to operate on this kind of continuum. When you say things like, hey, this is kind of what we need from a budgetary standpoint, to, hey, I think we're good now. We got what we need to compete. And then the landscape changes again. You just mentioned when we started the interview, you're out with donors, you're looking at fundraising opportunities. How fluid is the financial component when people want to pin you down and say, well, he said this and this means this? Like, what are we missing in that fiscal message that is so fluid?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I have is, I've always prided myself on, like, I don't say anything. I try not to say anything I don't mean, right? I don't want to give coach speak. Like, to me, it would be disrespectful to every fan. It'd be disrespectful to our team. It'd be disrespectful to come on with you guys and just give coach speak, right? And so I try to say exactly what I mean. The problem is that sometimes it's taken super literally, and I'm saying what's happening in that moment, right? And if you talk to me again next week, I might tell you something different. That's like, the days are changing. So like, yeah, like, well, I don't care if it's basketball, football, volleyball, the roster numbers and the salaries are escalating through the roof. And so you might make a big jump, but guess what? So did they. And so, I think the biggest thing for us as the head coach of Nebraska, and Troy Dannon, our AD, is amazing. He's worked so hard to get us more and more and more. And then you look at what Fred just did. Like, I mean, how awesome was that, right? And so it's like, you look at what wrestling did. I mean, like, so as the numbers ascend in other sports, each coach has to do the best they can to try to ascend the numbers. And, I would simply say, at the University of Nebraska, like, if we want to, we have 5 national championship trophies over there. Like, you were part of those great teams. If we want to be first, then like, let's output first, like, why not Nebraska? Like, why not Nebraska? Like, why does the state of Nebraska, why do we have to, like, not be at the top in terms of financial output? Like, it's when you think about Nebraska, you think about all the innovations, right? First, to have a Jumbotron, AstroTurf, training table, academic programs, the walk-on program, like, just such an innovative place that always figured everything out. Hey, how can we be great? And this is not college football anymore. This is pro football, and the market is the market. And so I'm very grateful for Troy Dannon and the people here, because they're doing everything they can all the time to continue to get us moving forward. But, like, when I say, hey, we have enough to compete now, guess what those other teams did? They said, oh, they got that. Watch what we do. Boom. And the market changes. And my job is very simply always to say, hey, how come at Nebraska we can't be first in terms of, the output? How come we can't be in the top 3 or 4? How come we can't? And so if we're there, then, I got to continue to say that, because if you were first, guess what? You think Ohio State's going to sit back? So it's an ever-changing market, right? I mean, I think there's going to be like 10 teams in college basketball that are like close to $20 million next year. It just is what it is. And so I'll still have people say to me, Damon, I don't believe in NIL. And I'm like, well, it believes in you because it's here. And, but yeah, I mean, like I said, we have a great AD. We have great administration that's working on it all the time, right? All the time. And you have to be really, really creative. And what I do know is this is a very wealthy state. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of great agriculture. And I think the state deserves to have great athletics coming out of the University of Nebraska, and have great athletics. You have to have obviously good facilities. You have to have good coaches, but you need great players, right? I remember sitting there as a Penn State fan watching Tommy Frazier run through the entire defense on his way to a touchdown, right? I remember watching Eric Crouch catch 41 reverse pass. Great players make great teams. And so today's players cost money. It just is what it is.
Coach, as you talked earlier about kind of self-reflection and self-evaluation, and as you kind of look back at your first few years at Nebraska here, how has your thought process changed? I don't want to say regrets, right? Everybody looks back and like, oh, I do this different, I do this different. But how has your experience the first 3 years changed your thought process about how you go about things on a day-to-day basis?
I think the biggest thing has been just dealing with the portal rosters. You have to remember, when I first took this job, you could only transfer once, right? And so that then changed. And we probably could have moved forward faster if I would have gotten rid of all the kids that were here and just started over like everyone else does. But I'm never going to do that. Like, I got into coaching for kids. So if people don't like that, then I don't care what they think, because I don't respect the way they think. I'm proud that I coached Luke Reimer. I'm proud that I coached Grant Taggy, and I wouldn't give up my year with those guys for anything. Those guys came out 4 games in a row, 4 or 5 games, whatever it was at the end of that year, 4 or 5 games in a row, and battled and laid it absolutely on the line for everybody and trying to get to a bowl. And, you remember the next year, my wife and I, that wasn't like a budgetary. We paid for those kids to go to the bowl. And, that might seem like nothing to people, but like, I don't know how else you can tell people like you respect them and then other than give them a great experience. And so, what could we have done it faster? Had we done that? Probably. Should I maybe, Ravi, have sat there and said, you guys don't understand how bad this program is? Like, do you understand how bottomed out everything is here? I probably could have done that, but I don't want to do that. How does that help you in recruiting? But I think the biggest thing is dealing with like the portal, dealing with transfers, dealing as those things have changed. Like, going from NIL era to raising NIL to now rev share plus above the cap dollars. I mean, it's just all changing. And, I'd say like if I took another job next year and I left here and took, Ja'Cory Barney and Vincent Shavers and Isaiah Mosey and Mekhi Nelson and all those teams, I'd probably start pretty hot at the next place I went to. And I wish I could have brought McCaffrey and Brian Burns and Shaq Thompson with me from the Panthers, but I couldn't, so, maybe, but I was kind of, when I went through this process, Ravi, I was assured that the people in Nebraska, and most people I meet, they feel this way. They wanted it done the right way. They wanted it done the long-term way. They wanted it done with grace and dignity and respect for the players and respect for the student athletes. And so, yeah, it's probably a little slower than maybe I would have liked. I think we went into last year with everyone. I wasn't saying it, but everyone else had a lot of expectations. Like, oh, Coach Rhule year 3, Coach Rhule year 3. I just show up to work every day and just try to get better and better and better. And so I think probably the personnel part of it, as much as anything, I don't think if there's anything else here, man. Like, I think in season, like, this is not a complaint. I think just, this is a big deal here. Nebraska football is a big deal, and I can handle it. Like, people say, like, okay, people come up to me all the time and say, hey, coach, don't listen to everyone out there. I'm like, I'm not listening to them. Did you guys want to hire a football coach who listens to what everyone says? That'd be the dumbest thing in the world. Like, people will say to my wife, like, don't pay attention to them. I'm like, the only one who probably listens to the noise is my son Bryant, and my youngest daughter Leona, right? So I try to keep them locked in on like, hey, just be a student. Don't worry about, but the vast majority of people I meet in the state are unbelievable and unbelievably supportive. And I think one thing I probably didn't recognize early on is just the impact throughout the course of the season that can have on a team, right? When it's like they open their phone every day and their algorithm is just shooting at them like this. And sometimes things that aren't even real start to become real. You have to address it with the team because it's all they're hearing out there from, sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes good things, sometimes from people who, monetize having an opinion on Nebraska football. So I've had to probably adjust a little bit, Ravi, in terms of in season, how to manage the team and the team psyche. And obviously I didn't do it well enough last year. And so that's why, this offseason, we're really focusing on grit and brotherhood, like, hey, let's be a gritty team that just shows up every day. It doesn't worry about what people are saying. Let's be a team that plays for each other and that brotherhood for each other. So I think those are probably things that are probably more real here. I've had guys come here from the SEC and they're like, wow, this is different. And it's what we use to sell in recruiting. I don't want it to change. when I say this, I don't want it to change. I want to matter, and I want to be important, and I want every person in this state waking up every single day having an opinion about what we did the day before. I love that part of it. I'm just not going to change, bend to people's opinions, but I do listen to I listen to people I trust, and I listen to all the coaches and staff and players. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think those are some things. But I don't live a lot of world of regrets. I try to take what happened last year and the year before, always self-reflect. What can I do better? What can they do better? But I don't think of it as a regret necessarily. I just think it as growth and trying to be the best coach I can be for the state of Nebraska next year.
How do you balance the things that you're like, hey, this didn't go the way we wanted to at the end of last year. Here are some tangible changes that we could make versus like, hey, our starting quarterback wasn't there for the last third of the season. That matters too when kind of evaluating results versus process and how last year ended.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. I'm going to give you the most honest answer I can give. When I look back at moments that really bothered me last year, I think back about the Minnesota game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at every aspect of that, right? So I say to myself, we went to Maryland the week before. Now, I wasn't happy the Big Ten had us twice go to the East Coast and come back and play a Friday game. I didn't think, but I can't control the league, right? So I can voice my opinion and hey, this doesn't really make a lot of sense here, guys. But the league's got to do what the league's got to do, right? So I look at that Maryland game and it's man, we were up 14 twice in that Maryland game. And had we just played better and put them away, then, you don't have this emotional comeback win in the fourth quarter, which drains you a little bit, right? And then, we went Thursday, we stayed Thursday, Friday, which, because, you fly into Baltimore and then you drive an hour to your hotel and you get in at this time. Do you want to go on Friday? Let's go on Thursday. Well, it worked out, but then you're on the road, 2 nights in a hotel, then you're on the road, 6 nights later on a Thursday night. And then we go out to Minnesota and you lose. But when I look back on those games, when I look back on Minnesota, what really bothers me is that it was 7-6 with 3 or 4 minutes left to go in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And our team was in the locker room at halftime, which is a direct reflection of me. And was they expected to win by 50, right? it's that's not how you play football, man. You just go play one snap at a time. You play one game at a time, and you have a standard you play to. And, I felt like the team I had the first year, they did that. They listened to me, and they did that. I felt like the team we had 2 years ago to an extent did that. I felt like last year's team, I didn't get that done. And, we're playing Iowa in the last game there. No, we had 185 yards rushing against Iowa in the first half. 185 yards. We haven't had that in a long time here against Iowa. And it's like a 6-point ball game, I think maybe at the half, right, or 8, whatever it was. And then, we stopped them. They punt the ball to Jacory. They re-punt it to Jacory. I think it's probably targeting. They don't call it right. And they get a safety. And it's the air comes out of our tires. And it's and all of a sudden now you look up and it's 40-16. And those are the things that bother me, Rob, because we were also the team. That was, 6-2 playing USC. We have the ball in the second half up by whatever we were up by. We picked the ball up and we have the ball, 1st and 10 on the 20-yard line going in to score. And, a quarterback gets hurt, we then proceed to lose, 4 of our next 5. It's just, it just drives me nuts. But that all falls on me. And so I guess my point is always well, what do you do about it, right? Do you sit there and do I sit there and complain about it? Part of it is, like I said, I'm going to turn on the TV this summer and I'm going to hear someone talking about Nebraska football. They're going to be well, this is the schedule and they should win this game and they should lose that game. And that's the exact disease that affected our team last year that I got to get rid of. And it falls on me. I'm not complaining about the guys doing that on TV because that's fun. That's their job. But I'm pretty sure when Coach Osborne coached Damon, he wasn't sitting there saying well, this game's going to be easy, but this game's going to be hard. It was we're the University of Nebraska. Every game we play has to be our best game. And so we were 6-2 with the lead against USC, and we're still in the hunt to even go to the CFP. And Dylan gets hurt, and then the season kind of takes a turn. But I go back to that disease was infected in us earlier, against Maryland, right? Put them away. You're up by 14 twice. Go put them away. Stop the run. Stop the quarterback. Make a play. In Minnesota, we're up at 7-6, and we just it just couldn't put them away. And so every team I've had that's been good has been able to win those games. And I thought we won those games the previous couple of years, and we didn't win those games this year. And so, I have to do a better job as a head coach, putting them in those situations, but also getting a gritty. It all goes back to what you talked about earlier, a gritty, tough team that doesn't just sit there and say this will be easy and this will be hard. Who just says, hey, this is how we play at Nebraska. Nebraska, excuse me.
Coach, how fine a line is it between talking it into existence and acknowledge it, but versus acknowledging it? And what I mean by that is I tell people this, like sometimes if I give people an explanation, they say, oh man, you're making excuses for Nebraska football. And it's not the difference between an excuse and an explanation is ownership. Nobody is punting on ownership. So when you're talking about your team's emotional ebb and flow, you haven't talked much about like needing good players, right? It's grit, it's toughness, it's not folding when it's 7-6. It's the belief factor. How do you move from talking about it too much versus just expecting an outcome, even though you know you can pinpoint kind of where it goes south, right? Just emotionally have been a little soft. Like, how do you address it without dwelling on it? Kind of like if I fumbled right? Like, hey, you need ball technique. I don't want to be thinking about it. I just want to carry the rock.
Yeah, like I think what happens is people will hear me in a press conference, they'll hear me here, and they'll be like, oh, well, like they're not here every day, right? Like they don't hear, like we're constantly working at this. We're working at this better for ourselves. So it's like, it's not, we don't make excuses. Like if you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. If you don't like the answer, then don't ask me the question. Right? Like, I mean, I think part of this job is being unbelievably transparent. The people in this state, Nebraska fans, are too smart of football fans to go up there and lie to, right? There's more people at a Nebraska press conference than I had when I was in the National Football League. The reporters are all well informed. They know football. They're smart. The fans are smart. So it's like, don't I owe it to everybody to be honest and say, hey, this, and this? If you don't like those answers, that's fine. But I'm just trying to show you respect by giving those answers. I think with our team, like, I think this is the year that we're gonna have to just move beyond like this. Like I said, I think we were the youngest team in the Big Ten last year, and we've gotten older fast, right? Both through the portal, but also these guys are growing up, right? Like I brought Ja'Cory Barney and those guys here to help me change the culture. Well, now they're juniors, and I'm in the Matt Rhule today, and they're out there and they're leading, right? And they know how hard this is. They know what to expect. And so when I talk about the things that have affected us, I'm not saying that they should affect us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm saying this is what has affected us. Like Coach Snow says to me, he's like, I'm just like, we're so tired of hearing about our schedule next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, we literally use the schedule. We literally use the schedule to recruit these players to come here. Like, hey, you should come to Nebraska this year, man. We're going to play Ohio State. We're going to go play Oregon. We're going to go play Indiana. We're going to play the 3 teams that went to the CFP. Oh, by the way, we're going to play Illinois, who's a top 25 team, Washington, who's a top 25, and Iowa, who's a top 25 team. Now, you're going to play 6 top 25 teams at a minimum. You should come here because we want competitive, tough dudes. And now all of a sudden we're going to be like, well, man, Murderers Row next year. No. So we can acknowledge that we have quite a challenge in front of us, and that excites us. I can acknowledge that, hey, our team sometimes listens a little bit too much to the outside noise. And that's a challenge. I mean, I say that because I'm accepting that challenge. Like, I'm going to make them hear me better this year. I'm going to make them hear each other better this year. I'm going to listen better to them maybe this year. Like, I promoted Jamar Mosey to a assistant head coach, and he runs my academic meetings now. He runs my he runs the Unity Council now, right? He's meeting with them all the time. And I've just said, hey, you take this, man. Like, you affect these guys. And so we understand the challenge. And I also have to sometimes remind them some of the, Damon, we're one of, I think it's 3 teams to be top 30 defense each of the last 3 years.
I talked about that the last week or so, where you're actually one of 5, only one of 5 to spend to finish in the top 30 in defense. I bring that up a fair amount.
And I'll say like to Ravi's point earlier, like, we've had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in 10 years. And people think I'm saying that to talk about how great we did. No, I'm actually just making sure everybody remembers how bad it was before we got here. Like, what happened the previous 10 years that the University of Nebraska can't have back-to-back winning seasons? Like, so yeah, we're not happy with where we're at. But like, I'm even talking to you guys. Like, I want people to know, like, we are attacking this head on. And either, like, honestly, like, I tell the players, our coaches and staff here, either you're with us or you're against us. I cannot stand a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, if you're with us, be with us. If you're not, be not. Now, that doesn't mean, like, again, I'm not saying, like, I love walking into the, I love pulling into, like, coffee out there in Waverly. There's was like a gas station, right? And a bunch of the guys that are farming, like they're out there in the morning, sometimes afterwards getting coffee. I want them to be like, what the hell was he thinking? And like, I want that. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is like to our team, like, bro, either you're with us or you're not. Like just attack and move forward. And so, I think sometimes the end of last year, and literally the last 2 years, 3 years, is like, that's the thing we have to solve, right? We have to get better as the year goes on. And then when things aren't going our way, we have to continue to attack. And that's what I look for this year in the portal and recruiting. I was like, just find me grown men. Just find me grown men. That's why I did spring ball early, Ravi. I wanted to figure out who the grown men. Now you could be a 17-year-old grown man, but just find me the grown men who the gritty alphas who want to go fight. And it's taken us a little longer here to figure out, or develop them in some ways, but we got a lot of them now, and I'm proud of them. And so I like this team a lot. And I'm excited to see what they do. And but if that makes sense. Like I'm not going to talk about, like, I'm not going to get to next year, Damon, and be like, hey, run the road. Like I'm saying, sometimes say that to you guys, because you guys like football and like talking to you guys about football things. But with this team, it's going to be about freaking playing one snap at a time, attacking every single play, every single day, being the same guy, and just being gritty, passion plus perseverance over time.
Let me ask you something. This is fascinating because you do have a chance with just a modicum of success this year, looking like football, landed on the line. You do have a chance to really flip and be an older football team next year, but you can't fast forward because you're a big stay in the moment guy. But there's just a lot of cannibalism, right? That I think you're. I don't know if you're trying to shield your guys from or not, right? You got other programs that are winning, softball, right? Winning, baseball, winning, basketball. Coaches, you have a fantastic relationship with, right? The Mannings, the Hoibergs, guys you rock with. And you hear this, well, it really turns up the pressure on. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, guys? I don't know. I think he's other-centered. He's for other people. His job is going to be his job from an aspect standpoint, regardless of what the other sports do. Do the guys, or do you catch wind of them scorekeeping with other sports? Because we do it real easy in the media and amongst the fan base.
Yeah, I don't hear that, and I think I want all the other sports to win. I think you want to create both a culture of excellence, and to quote the great North Carolina soccer coach Anson Dorrance, like, you want to have a cauldron of competition, right? So, I loved, I went to all three basketball team games, NCAA tournament games, right? I love Amy Williams, and she's been to the NCAA tournament for the last 5 years. My daughter played volleyball on Saturday, and Harper Murray comes to the game to support her. I love the women's volleyball team.
You invite Coach Manning to practice.
Yeah, Coach Manning comes to practice. Coach Oates and Coach Ward, sometimes they'll come over. Like, recruit was in for basketball the other day. Like, I got to go talk to him and meet. I mean, like, we all work together. So, like, like, Damon, would you respect me if I said, man, I'm really feeling the pressure because baseball's winning?
No.
Like, would you respect? Would you respect? I wouldn't even respect it at all. Like, if I'm doing my job any different because of what's happening around me, then I'm not who I say I am, right? Like, so no, I don't think anything of it. I was fired up the other night when baseball came back, and then proceeded to be great. I love watching Jordy Ball and the softball team. I can't wait for Big Tens and track. I love Coach Cornell. But we're worried about us and us alone. I think it's all that kind of talk is really, it's not who we are. That it's fun to talk about on a show. It gives someone something to talk about. But like, we're out there at 6 a.m. this morning. I was in New York City last night. I get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the office at 5:30. Like, you think I'm doing that because I want to keep up with DBK? I'm doing that because that's my job, man. Like, and I'm assuming she's probably doing the same thing, knowing her. So yeah, man, we're just worried about us and grinding, but also very proud of everyone that's around us.
Coach,
let me get one more in, Coach.
Okay, go ahead.
How
I got 14 minutes, so I got to be on the field.
Listen, I'm not even going to take it that long. This is it for me.
That's what he says, Ravi. That's what he says, Ravi.
Hey, listen. Well, there you are. You started out a little surly. Now you're back.
You tell me you got 14 minutes. I'm probably going to take all of them. So,
I am curious because we haven't really talked about this since the Board of Regents and the stadium expansion, right? We're going to condense that thing. You got money set aside for renovations. You got camps that want allocations for revenue spending in sports, and then there's this stadium deal. You talk about staying dialed in to the task at hand. How do you stay dialed in with kind of the numbers and the discussion that surrounds Memorial Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, it really has nothing to do with me, right? I mean, Troy will be the first one to tell you, like, the stadium we play in, like, has nothing to do with what we're doing, right? And so I trust the people I work with, and I trust the people I work for. And so whether it's Dr. Gold, whether it's Troy Dannon, whether it's the board or Regents, like they'll make all the right decisions in terms of what to do. I think the best thing you can do is not get distracted and you know, as I told you earlier, I'm always going to try to fight to get as much money as I can to get the players we need here. You know, that's part of my job. I feel like, right, is to raise the money to have the best roster possible. Like I get texts from people sometimes. They're like, "Oh, what's going on with this recruit? What's going on with that recruit?" It's not even recruiting. Like, what are we talking about? It's finances. It's player acquisition. It's free agency. It's the NFL. And so, you know, like, that's part of my job, is to make sure we get the best players we can get here, both to visit and then hopefully eventually to come. You know, yeah, you know, a couple times I had a couple people say to me this summer, like, "Man, we keep getting these top tier offensive linemen here. We get down to the final 2 or 3, they're not able to get them." And I'm like, it's because we couldn't pay as much as the other team. Like that's just what it is. And so, like, that's why we've worked so hard, and Troy's worked so hard to get, you know, the roster acquisition up. And so, but when it comes to the stadium, you know, I would like to have the type of team that, like, would play you in the parking lot, would play you in the practice field, and that, you know, that stadium, we're going to go out to this fall, just like this. If they pass the stadium, you know, there'll be some changes in the following year, and eventually the stadium will be, you know, renovated. And, like, all that really matters to me is what's the football like inside of that stadium. So I think to be able to stay disciplined and focused on what your job is, you have to have tremendous trust of the people around you. And so that's the trust I have. And, you know, Troy Dannon and Courtney Gaucher and all the people, like, they know what to do. I trust them. That's not my job to worry about. My job's to worry about these players, and then the 27 class, and then, you know, all the football that we're doing right now.
Coach, I'm glad you brought up kind of those recruiting battles and what they come down to, because I keep sitting here thinking, right, and as long as you've got enough money to get into the neighborhood, I always wonder, like, if you're trying to build a program on toughness and grittiness and guys that want to stick around and be about that, if you're in the neighborhood, how much is there any hesitance from your side to want a guy that makes his decision based off of money? Does that make sense?
No, there's no hesitance. There's no hesitation for me, because at the end of the day, I think each one of us, when we're looking at a job, right, mm-hmm, we want to know that we're going to be financially taken care of. And once we know that, then we pick the best job, right? Like, then we say, like, okay, so, like, to me, these kids have only grown up in this era, so they don't know what we did before this, right? This is all they know. And, you know, for them, a lot of times there's a psychological effect of the money in terms of, like, hey, this tells me what you really think about me, right? And so I'm not saying that that's always true or right, you know, but that's how they see it. And so I think, like, I have every one of my assistant coaches, like, you know, like, hey, you know, so-and-so's trying to hire EJ, because you guys have EJ's face up there. A lot of people have tried to hire EJ the last couple of years. You like, and, you know, he's an excellent running back coach. I hope everyone appreciates how good he is. He's a great recruiter. And he's opened up Chicago to us, right? I mean, Claude and Puma is good, you know, a really good young player, right? And we have some kids committed to us. So EJ's done a great job. But, like, people have tried to hire him, and it's like, well, you know, if they're going to pay him twice what I'm paying him, I can tell him I love him all I want, or that he's happy here. Like, he's probably going to take a 50% pay cut, right? I mean, he's probably going to take a 50% pay raise. But if I can get in that neighborhood, and I think the word neighborhood we have to be very careful about, because I think, like, we have to know the actual numbers to decide what the neighborhood is, right? Like, you know, so I think that's really, really important. I think one of the things with problems, you know, because there's not a lot of transparency, we operate in this nebulous, like, philosophical conversation, but money is money. And so dollars and cents. And so I think all of us, when we take a job, we want to know what we're going to get paid. If that's reasonable and it's satisfactory to us, then we pick the job where we'll be the happiest, where we have the best quality of life, where we have all these different things, right? So I think a player needs to know, like, hey, what's the financial component here? What's it going to mean for me? And then from there, I hope then they say, okay, these two things are close. Let me pick the school that fits me the best. I think most players want to go somewhere where they're happy and going to be successful. It's just that the money is a major part of it, right? Like, like people say to me, like, what, they talk about like our run defense last year, right? And which they should, and it wasn't nearly good enough. And it wasn't like 4 yards a carry. It was more explosive runs over time, right? And big explosive runs that hurt us and cause us to lose games. But no one ever says, when they think about the poorly, we think about the players coming in. But no one ever talks about the fact, and I don't care if they talk about it, but like when you think about how the portal, it helped us in some ways last year, but also hurt us in that, we lost Mackay, who was a really good player as our leading tackler. We lost Jamari Butler, who was one of my favorite players here. We lost Prince Will, who went to LSU and tore it up, Ole Miss and tore it up. So you take three guys who played a lot of football for us and take them off that defense, and you lose Ty and MJ Sherman and all those guys, man, like that starts to really, really affect you, And so I'm anxious to see everyone wants me to get rid of everyone that played last year. Wait till you see how Cam Lenhart plays this year. I feel really good about that. I feel really good about Riley and the guys we've added. I feel really good about Waneri and Cade Petschok. I mean, those guys were all a year older. But I think there's something too, like you have to just admit the money's the money. Like I remember when we had McCaffrey and we redid his contract, like he was going to play hard no matter what, but he wanted to know, like he deserved to know. And, we did DJ Moore's contract. They deserved to know that they were going to get paid in a manner requisite with the market for how they played. And once they knew that, then they could go back to focusing on football. I think it's the same thing in recruiting.
Have you seen immediate dividends, at least emotionally, with moving your practice times? I'm always curious because you study so much data.
Yeah. So I've gone back and forth on the practice times the first 2 years in terms of what to do, and I stayed with the mornings. And really, there's really two components to it, right? When we talk about like you talk about like the Big Ten as it was, right? When both before I got here and then my first year, there was like the Big Ten West, right? I remember my first year, like I think every flight was like an hour and a half. Right now we're on the plane for 3.5 hours, right? You fly in the East Coast, fly to the West Coast. So, I wanted to get more sleep during the season. I wanted to be able to sleep in a little bit longer, right? So, if you tell people that they have, you have to have breakfast done before 7:30 and meetings start at 8 or before 7:30 meetings start at 8, they're going to get here at 6:15 every day, right? Which means I got to go 5:30. And so that had an impact on young people over time. And then I looked at the weather here, right? Like we're out there sometimes, the field's frozen. We went earlier in the spring, like we can use the indoor, but we want to get outside. So I talked to Joey McGuire, the head coach at Texas Tech. And if you basically take our program, all the things that we say, like all the things that we do, like a lot of them, he does. He has in his building. He helped me build those when we were together at Baylor. And the one big change he did was he went to afternoon practices. And I said, what'd you think? He said, well, we had less injuries. Our guys seemed to have more energy through the course of a season. Like Damon, when you and I were in school, we were playing in the 90s. Like I didn't have a cell phone. You might have had one. I didn't have one. Like, I wasn't. Guys weren't getting.
Listen, you know my mom. You think I had a cell phone?
but these guys are getting 3 to 4 hours sleep sometimes because they're on their phone, they're scrolling. Everybody's central nervous system is all screwed up from their phones now. There's just so many things that are different. So talking to Joey, they had done a lot of studies on it, and they did it last year, or maybe the last 2 years, and he has seen tremendous dividends. So we went with it, and I thought we had a team that showed up excited every day. When we could go outside, the field was thawed. It might be 25 degrees in the morning, but it might be 45 or 50 degrees in the afternoon.
And you'll have your goofy shorts on.
Every time. Same guy every day. Same guy every day. Same guy every day.
Hey, who's actually kind of sneaky tough?
Who?
It's Dikil Shorts.
Yeah.
He stays in shorts.
Yeah, but he's like 30-something. That doesn't – don't tell me anyone's tough until they're 30. He's 30-something.
Hey, listen. Do you like my clean-face version of Coach Barthel?
That's so scary. That's how I looked when I first met him. That's he was a Golden Gloves boxer, right? So like that's Golden Gloves EJ right there. I way prefer the bearded, a little bit heavier version of EJ to that guy.
Oh no, you did.
That's what I told him. I told him he needs to get bearded EJ up there.
I'm gonna take a shot at him and say, look at that guy. That guy's like 220 pounds of like boxing fury right there. He's gonna call me all mad. Don't clip. Tell your guys not to clip that.
Austin, don't clip it. Coach, I got to ask you because I'm sitting here and we're big NFL draft guys. Obviously, you spent time in the league and you're trying to get your guys to the league now, and you've You've had a really good.
I know where you're going with this.
You've had a really good track record of that across your stops. I keep wondering, and I'm looking at all these guys.
No, he's mad. Just say it.
Yeah, I'm mad. I'm pretty mad. I can't understand how anybody has watched tape of Sierra Wright and isn't putting that guy on mock drafts and everything else, especially when you look at like what he did to a guy like Mekhi Lemon and what he did throughout the season where people didn't even want to throw at him. Like, what am I missing about what Sierra Wright did last year that he's not getting the draft love that I think he should?
You're 100% right. I've talked to all kinds of GMs and people. Like I remember, I tried to get him in the Senior Bowl, and he didn't get in. But we got him in the East West Shrine Bowl, right, or whatever it's called. And I was down at the Senior Bowl. I go down the Senior Bowl, and I think people are probably like, "Why is he at the Senior? Why is he doing?" Well, I'm down there. I'm talking to Drew Fabianich, who's a great dude who's running the Senior Bowl, and I'm like, "Listen, if a guy drops out, man, Sierra crushed it at the East West Shrine game. Bring him in." And he was like, "I don't think anyone's going to drop out." And later that day, something dropped out. The next day, Sierra was there, and he showed up, and he competed, and he was tough. And so all the scouts I talked to, he interviewed well. I think people, whoever drafts him or gets him, is going to get one heck of a football player, one of the best leaders I've been around. A guy that came here, as sort of a young man and is leaving now as a grown man. Like when I think I'm looking for grown men, that's what I'm talking about here. So I think he's a guy that has outside, inside flexibility. He can play in the slot at nickel. He can play outside at corner. He can play on special teams. I think he's a pro, and he'll play for a long time. So I agree with you completely, Ravi. People, if they're not looking at him, they're missing the boat.
How about Lutovsky, man? He seems like he's flying under the radar, maybe an undrafted free agent guy, but he's got all the tools, man. What are we missing with Lutovsky?
I talked to, in pro day, I think he really helped himself at pro day.
He had a really good RAS score too.
What score?
Well, they do like these predictive measures of guys, and like I'm an awesome. I just didn't hear what you said. I was going to say, yeah. I'm not interested in you making fun of me. Like,
I'm not making fun of you. No, I just couldn't hear what you said. Bro.
You've been good.
But I think he's a guy that could get drafted. And he's really powerful, explosive, big. His best football's ahead of him. He's kind of a lingering knee, so he might have a couple of medical questions that he's battled through. I mean, it's a hard thing. Like people sometimes will say things. I'm like, how many of these guys play? One thing about these kids, like Henry Lutovsky played through a lot of pain. He practiced through a lot of pain. I respect that. I can't tell you how much I respect him. And so I think he could get drafted, though. I think he has a chance. I think someone will be smart to draft him because he's got all, to your point, he's got all the measurables. He's played a lot of good football. He's played in the Big Ten.
Coach, it is right on the dot that we got to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Hey, can I make the reservations or what, man? Like, what's going on? I got a spot.
What spot are we going to?
I'm not going to tell you. Just say yay or nay.
Is Ravi coming?
No. Let's go. Is that an invite?
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met Ravi. Ravi, have we ever met?
We met at Big Ten Media Days in passing, but
I'm talking about. When I say meeting, I'm sorry. I mean like outside of actual work.
We have not met outside of football.
So why does Damon want to bring you?
Okay, it's fine. He can come.
He's afraid that people like me more than him. That's the problem.
All right.
You make the reservation. Let me know.
You got it. We'll see you soon.
Guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Coach. That is head coach Matt Rhule.
Make this the summer event at Edwards Jeep and Ram, Council Bluffs and Village Point. Lease the 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport S starting at $289 a month. Built for the road and ready for summer. This June, the savings are as big as the season. We've also got the 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn starting at $399 a month or finance at 2.9% APR for 72 months. Don't miss this pitch. Slide into savings at Edwards Jeep and Ram, Council Bluffs and Village Point. It's time to slide into savings at Edwards Chevrolet. Lease the 2026 Chevy Trax LT for just $349 a month. $0 down with your first payment due at signing. 2 great Chevys, one big June event. Slide into a 2026 Chevy Equinox LT for just $399 a month. $0 down with your first payment due at signing. Get to Edwards Chevrolet today. Together, let's drive.
Don't forget to head over to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's Monday. That means $10 pizzas. You absolutely cannot beat that deal, regardless of what you got going on. Bring the family in there. Maybe you just want to watch some games. The $10 pizza deal is elite. Make sure you get over there to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Always great food, great drinks, and a great place to watch your games or just to hang out. Head over to Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
I came to the conclusion yesterday. It even causes hand wringing, and so like the guys that I really care about their opinion, that I think like want the best, are open minded. I tried to give a heads up. I'd say, hey, you may want to hear this in its entirety.
Sure.
Before we do anything, we may want to hear this in its entirety. Some guys, it was like, oh, yeah, I get it. Other guys were like, big year, man. Still got to win. Yeah.
Duh.
I know. No, I'm not. These are guys.
I know. They're guys you like, but.
So what I'm saying is, it's not a good piece of cheese. Even guys that I get along with, that I respect a heck of a lot. Like we don't always agree.
Sure. And you don't have to.
And some of it is healthy, but then there's just some, it's like you just don't, for whatever the reason, you just don't want this to work.
Yep.
And I don't know. The only thing that I wasn't mad yesterday, because everybody, it's flooding my timeline, right? And I get it. And these guys, I think sometimes, they chuckle because they're really good at what they do when these get clipped out. And every time I hear just a snippet, I'm like, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be a long day. So, but it's like it always is. There's people that want to be right, and there's people that want to get it right. So if you want to get it right, even though it may be at your own expense or your own thought process, you probably took the information differently. If you want to be right and you have a preconceived notion, then you probably took the information differently.
Yeah, it was kind of stunning how differently people responded to it.
To the exact same information.
The same clips, and yes, the context matters, right? Like the way we do this is
and those weren't softballs.
No, I felt like we were asking real questions.
I felt like those were, and it was intentional, right? Because I want to know some things. I think you want to know some things.
The only thing that I held back were specific names. I asked everything I wanted to ask.
Which part?
When I'm talking about different type of players,
if he would do the Dylan thing over,
doing things differently, I didn't want to put him in a spot where he had to potentially disparage or sound like he was disparaging a kid. Because I know how this works and how things on the internet work and clip outs and things like that. I didn't want to put him on a spot where he had a bad soundbite because that isn't really fair, because I can ask the question and get the answer I want without putting him in that position. Yeah. So I don't want to do a gotcha moment just for the sake of, but if I get him to say Dylan Raiola and he wouldn't do it again.
You could tell though, like he was, because
he thought about it.
Like Sip sent me so there were a couple guys I was pretty surprised just on their take. And I'm only going to use Sipple as one of the 35. And hopefully he won't be mad at me. I don't think.
Well, I think he's a little scared of you, so he won't be mad at you.
Why would he be scared? He's constantly he pushes back. He plays the victim here, but he constantly he goes, Jesus, I'm watching this interview with Rhule. This is incredible. He's incredibly locked in. I said, yeah, I can't believe he just let us ask him anything, but we just went with it. He said, I believe this sort of interview is incredibly helpful to him in the program. Text you tomorrow. I'm only halfway through. I got to dig in.
Yeah. I think that's and I don't think SIP has been overly flowery about the program. Like, I think that's far from an accurate description. Not that but I also don't think SIP is a guy that's.
And you don't have to be.
No, I don't. I do want you to have an open mind, though.
Yeah. Like, it's, my, I told you the other day, a guy that I rock with, Jay Urban, right, on Twitter, when I said, because it got clipped out without the context of what I was saying, I was talking about the two of the things that really upset me, just because I'm around him enough and I kind of know his heart.
Yeah, the work ethic
and the authenticity.
Yeah.
And Jay was like, God, are people really saying this? And I was like, you're my dude. You can't really.
Yeah. Go look at the response to the clip yesterday and you'll see people saying it.
Exactly. That's all it was.
Yeah.
That's all it was yesterday was, guys were like, oh, if you too busy with, traveling or too busy with the podcast or, oh God, this guy could sell me anything. Like that's all from the negatives comments.
From the negative side, that's all it was.
Yeah.
Yep. There was,
and I'm like, we can't act like I'm making this up.
No, it was a lot of salesmen.
Yep.
It was a lot of, that was to the negative. The sort of, I call this neutral, I guess, or maybe the, well, yeah, duh, is the, well, just got to win. That's the, well, yeah, duh of it all.
So the guys that I probably, and it's interesting. Like, I don't really know the opinions of like somebody that I think is actually like thoughtful, like a Zadiska. Sure,
he's not like clickbaity. Like he's,
and he's a guy that I could have like a back and forth with, without somebody having to be right. Like we could just process through it.
And he'll want to process through
so
things.
I didn't talk to like everybody that would think like that, but of the guys that I think that are like that, I think at the end of the conversations, it was a lot of winning will cure a lot. And I'm like, yeah. It would.
Yes, it will.
But then all of a sudden, like, is it more believable? Because I thought it was interesting yesterday listening to Bykoff talk about Signet. He said everything he says come true.
Yeah. When you win, you get that benefit of the doubt.
So you can say anything.
Yes, 100%.
Right. And I've also seen it go the other way, where guys that won a lot, that would say a lot, and there would be those of us that are like,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's how I felt about Dabo.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think that Dabo is the best example that I can think of.
So it's
where I just wasn't buying what he was selling, no matter how much he won.
So it was like it goes both ways. I still ultimately, unfortunately, it hurt like hell. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it boils down to two things: whether we want to be right or not, and if we like the person.
So that's the thing that bothered me yesterday more than anything, was because there were people that I know for a fact, and I'll name this one by name because he's been very public about it. Like Scott Shanley, for example, had a quote tweet of one of our things.
You guys have a different history than I do.
No, for sure. I
rock with Shanley.
That's totally fine. But Shanley, I mean, from literally,
and he could not like Rhule, and
that's fine.
You know what I mean?
But what I'm saying is, like,
this is just I'm sorry. I just want clarity before you rant.
Yeah, you're good.
I know you're going to go in on this because you had the interviews with him. This is just, is this like, what vantage point is this?
So this is,
because I'm giving you a friend, so that doesn't.
The
I don't know how
only
credible
vantage
that is
point I
for me.
have for Shanley is I interviewed him when, ironically enough, I was filling in for you when you left the old place. And that was during the time period of Nebraska looking for a new coach that ended up being Matt Rhule.
Fair. All right.
So, and at the time on that show, he was I believe, a weekly guest or a semi-regular guest at the very least. So I talked to him with our old friend Gary Sharp several times over the course of this process, including, I believe, right after he was hired.
It was either his camera work is sick.
It was either right before or right after he was hired. It was when it became pretty apparent that it looked like it was going to be Rhule. So that is my context. That is the only interactions besides seeing him on social media that I have with Scott Shanley. So I want to make that very clear. I don't know him as a person. It is just the interactions I had with him a few years ago and on social media. Okay. And the thing about him was he was out even as the idea of him as a candidate immediately.
Okay.
Which is fine. That's fine. But it always appeared to be weirdly personal for some reason. I know that they shared a division when Coach Rhule was, Shanley was doing work with the Saints. Coach Rhule was at the Panthers. So I'm sure there was some overlap of people that knew Coach Rhule. But he's the only person that I've ever heard say, I think he's a bad guy. Ever. So to me, that's a pretty dramatic outlier. You've heard some people say, I think he's a little salesman-y. I think he's maybe out there too much. The only person I've ever heard, and
I'm not saying this is new to me because I know his sentiment, but I didn't.
So I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if he said the words "he's a bad guy," but this was very much that's an accurate sentiment for what he was talking to us about.
Fair.
He is the only one I've ever heard talk about Coach Rhule that way. And so I asked, I go, okay, do you have an experience with him? Do you have what leads you to believe this? Because this is pretty. I asked this at the time because the stories about the Texas High School Coaches Association talked about how much they loved him and things like that. I was like, okay, this is very different from everything else we've heard about Matt Rhule. Can you expound a little bit? And at the time, he couldn't really or didn't want to. I'm not saying he couldn't. He didn't want to or didn't have examples at the ready. And for him to feel as strongly as he did about Coach Rhule in that sense, that seemed pretty strange to me. So I go everything, and again, we go into things with our filters. So everything I see from Shanley, I go through the filter of, well, he just doesn't like this guy. I feel very comfortable saying that based on the interactions I had with him, right? So that has to go into my filter of how I view anything Shanley says about Matt Rhule. He seems like one of the guys that just didn't want it to work from the start because he didn't like Coach Rhule before the hire was made. And so I wish we could just say that, not to give myself too much credit here, but I'm going to because that's what I do. When you talk to me about Dan Hurley, I'm very clear. I just don't like him. I've never said that he was a bad coach. I have no idea how he interacts with the players. I go, I don't like him.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dion. I don't like him. He might be a good coach. He might be a great person. I don't like him for whatever reason. I'm coming around on Cignetti. There's some things that rub me the wrong way, but he's phenomenal at what he does. I have no idea how any of these guys interact with their players. I have no idea how. I only know what I see. And I've seen more of Hurley than I have of most people interact with people that can do nothing for him. And that's part of the reason I don't like him. If you don't treat people that can't do anything for you well, I've got some concerns. Okay? So I wish we could just say that at the start, whether it's Scott Shanley. I know some other former teammates like Jason Peter had a tweet that kind of went a little viral that just start off with.
I didn't understand because Coach Rhule. So I want to be clear here, and I don't want to speak for Jason, but I know him really, really well. And I think Jason can have an opinion independent of how he actually feels about Coach Rhule. Because I think he likes Coach Rhule. But so I don't think he's coming at that from a like thing. But having said that, I didn't understand the tweet. I know it pissed a lot of people off. And it made a ton of message boards, and people are mad at him. But I don't know. I didn't understand. I don't know enough.
So that's why I included it in there, because it didn't make a lot of sense to me unless I'm viewing it from he probably just doesn't like this guy. So I could be wrong there, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But that's why I lumped it in together, because it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I just wish we could start from that standpoint and just be honest enough to be like, hey, this opinion is because I don't like this person. Like I did that with your guy Jay Sadi, right? We had an interaction on Twitter. I was like, hey, like, is there a problem here? It seems like you're not really a fan. He's like, oh no, I've never really liked you. I was like, oh, dope. Now I know where we're at. That's cool. Like, and
that's something he would say.
And
too.
we've had much more pleasant interactions since then.
You're gonna laugh at me. I'm telling you, he's a good dude,
which is fine. And not everybody has to be a fan. I understand that. Yeah. But if I know that going in, then it's much easier than if somebody's like, oh no, I love what you do, and then is a a-hole all the time. It's like there's a disconnect there.
That's what I hate.
Right? Like if you tell me like, hey, I'm not for you, cool. Like I get that. But let's start there. Like if there's a lot of people that are connected to the program, used to be in the program or used to play for the program or whatever, that are way more interested in being right than the program being successful. And they would never say that, and they'd probably try and fight me for saying it, but your actions tell me how you feel. And there's a lot of people that are more interested. I don't know if it's in the clicks. I don't know what they get out of it. Whatever, just attention.
Are these people in the media?
Some of it's
because you have to hear from. Yeah, maybe.
Some of it's from the media. Some of it's former players. It's just a lot of people around. Media for sure. There's a lot of people in the media that, not to quote Coach Rhule, but like are profiting off the negativity around the program. Like, and that's the only thing that they do in their jobs is profit off the negativity around the program. But there's also people that we assume former players are always for the program. And there's a lot of former players that their actions or their words, at least on social media, you know them better than I do, so I can only judge them from what I know, do not line up with somebody that is for the program. Or it's certainly not for the program regardless of who's leading it, right? Like I heard it with Mike Riley a bunch, right? A lot of people when Mike Riley was here, even when he was winning, a lot of people, former players, media people, whoever, were not for the program because they weren't there for Mike Riley, which I understand. There was a lot of stuff to be like, I don't know if this is going to work. I get that they're top 10 in the country right now, but this all feels like smoke and mirrors. I get it. But that's also the best season Nebraska's had in 15 years, basically. And if you're for the program being successful, that should be a positive rather than being like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Right? Like Coach Rhule said it yesterday. I think he was quoting me, but this is the most successful Nebraska's been over a 2-year stretch since Bo Pelini. That's 3 coaches ago. So when people are like, well, just win, it's like, well, he's done that at a higher level than anybody in 12 years. So what do you want me to do with that information? We heard Ken Bykoff talk about it yesterday. Indiana was actually coming off the most successful stretch in their history, or one of the most successful stretches in their history when Curt Cignetti took over. We like to ignore that part of it, but we also like to ignore the fact that Nebraska was coming off literally the worst stretch in Nebraska football in modern history. I mean, like 100 years, basically. Certainly back to the 50s. We're talking pre-Devaney minimum, right? So if I'm sitting here and saying, hey, just win, it's like, well, he has more than the other 2 coaches combined. Now, that's not enough. I get that, and he gets that. If you think he thinks 7-5 is enough, you're out of your mind. I don't know what you heard yesterday if you think he thinks 7 wins is enough.
Well, he said it wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he has told you it's not enough. So it's also
hang on,
the most we've had in over a decade.
I'm just listening. So when you say that, you're just basically like, okay, here's the facts. I'm not even going to put words in your mouth. Here's the facts. I can put this here. All right, what's the point? 2 things can be true at once.
My point is,
I mean, for him, because I just want to make this. Yes. I'm just getting clarity.
This is my point. My point is, we refuse to acknowledge that real, tangible progress has been made under Coach Rhule.
Okay.
Every time we hear something negative about it, it's like, well, he's a used car salesman and they haven't won and whatever. And it's like, okay, I get they haven't won as much as we want them to. That's universal. Everybody agrees with that statement. They have not won as much as we want Nebraska to win. I don't think anybody that cares about Nebraska at all would disagree with that. But here's an undisputed fact. They have also won more than any team that Nebraska has had in 12 years. So both, as you said, both those things can be true at the same time. It's not enough, and it's still dramatically better than it was. And heading in the right direction. That's why I asked him the question about Dylan getting injured last year, because they are 6-2 with a lead against USC on November 1st. And then quarterback breaks his leg, and yeah, the season falls apart a little bit. And not all of that's on the quarterback, but you can't tell me some of it's not. Right? Like, and then not to mention the backup true freshman also injured, but playing anyway. So we're having this conversation about, well, year 3 rule and whatever and all this other stuff. And it goes, listen, they were 6-2. They were bowl eligible early in October or mid-October, whatever it was. It wasn't like we were down to the wire trying to win one more game against Wisconsin or Iowa trying to get bowl eligible in November. They were bowl eligible early. They were 6-2. He's right. They were still in the college football playoff hunt at that point. And if they beat USC, we're having a real conversation about it. And then the quarterback gets hurt when they have the lead on November 1st. And we act like that 7-6 is the same as the 7-6 the year before. And it wasn't. And then we act like the things that went wrong, he didn't fire people for. People lost their jobs for what went wrong last year. And we just act like he's like, oh, let's just run it back. Everything's great at Nebraska. I signed an extension. I'm cashing checks. I don't care. He fired people for what went wrong last year, even though they made real, tangible progress and are the only Nebraska football team to finish over 500 for 2 straight years since Bo Pelini. That is, all of those things are undeniable facts. And if you don't like them, that's fine, but you can't dispute them. And the only way you can try to dispute them is if you've just decided you don't want it to work with Matt Rhule. And again, that's fine, but tell me that at the start of your tweet. Right? When I was out on Scott Frost, what was I very, very clear about? I don't think this is a good dude. I don't think he's the right guy to lead the program. And I still wasn't rooting for him to lose. I just didn't think it was within the realm of possibility for it to turn around while he was still there. We had that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're like, well, if he does this and this, I was like, I just don't think it's in him. Right? But I was very clear about why I didn't think Nebraska was going to succeed. It's because I didn't think that was in him. If you're going to say, hey, I don't think this is going to work under Matt Rhule, or because nobody's going to say I don't want it to work because nobody's that self-aware. But if you're going to say, hey, I don't think it's going to work under Matt Rhule, let's start with how you feel about Matt Rhule. And then I have a better idea of the context of whatever you're laying out there. Because then I can take it with a grain of salt or just flush it down the toilet or do whatever I want with it, see if there's any meat to pick off that bone. But if you parade around acting like you're for the program and you're really not, that's where this gets toxic for the fan base. Because I sit in a really weird spot. Probably fan first, media second. I grew up as a fan. I never really learned how to be media. I kind of just ended up here because I thought it was something I wanted to do. And I love it. But I don't really typically think of things through a media lens. I didn't go to journalism school or broadcast school or anything like that. So I typically think fan first and then media. So when I say it's toxic to the fan base, I worry because not everybody has time to spend the amount of time on Nebraska football that you and I do, right? So they have to look to prominent members of either the media or former players or whatever for their information as they're scrolling their timeline at lunch at their job or whatever. And if that timeline is toxic, then it gets real easy to turn and be like, oh man, what's going on with Rhule? If you don't have an hour to listen to an interview that we did with him, which I thought was really good, then you only see a quote tweet that then frames those clips in a very different manner than the actual context does. And that's not the clip's fault either, because I saw quote tweets that were positive that also frame it in a very different manner, right? People can frame those things however they want to, but if you don't have the opportunity to spend as much time as Nebraska football as some people do, then all of a sudden your entire view gets changed by some guy you don't know just doesn't like the head coach.
So is part of the frustration, and I get it, right? I knew I said to the guys walking in, we were just kind of joking about the initial rundown. I said, I don't know. It depends on how pissed Ravi is about yesterday. I had a feeling,
yeah,
right. But here's the thing. So once you're operating in the know, like there's people that we chat with every day in this chat that, I mean, could spin it like fine yarn, right? I could say, I'm not even going to give him any oxygen. And somebody will see the negative in it. It's just it's a blanket statement, fairly innocuous, and it's so you're saying such and such and such and such. I don't know, man. Is that what you heard? Like, no. But so why so if people were just more forthright about the negative stance, is it going to change the delivery style?
If there are people, my delivery style or theirs?
Yours.
Yes, because I know what I'm dealing with. Like, I feel like
all right, we're the same. We're the same.
I think people are being disingenuous on purpose.
Yeah.
100, that's what bothers
100%.
They're like, oh no, I'm for the program. I'm for the program. Let me shit on the program. I'm for the program. I'm for the program. Let me trash the program. Like, that's my problem. If you want to trash the program, that's your right. Don't tell me you're trying to clean up.
What? So the thing you got. So help me here, because I think the only real thing, the thing that can elicit emotions like this, and I sit on them, right? I mean, I'm up. By the way, Shane, it was 12:41 in the second period of the Avs Kings last night.
So what are you going to ask me? Was I up?
There's no way. It went to intermission.
Let me explain.
And I'm like, it's 12:41.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing this. Why am I doing this?
Last night was super busy. I mean, there was 5 teams that I wanted to follow, pretty much playing all at the same time. And once we got to the last game, and once the glass broke, I was like, this is going to extend it at least another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
So where I was going with like, the only thing that I was thinking about last night is, can we, and I try to say this all the time, but people have to take some self-inventory. I said it yesterday when he was pretty forthright about where he had gone wrong, right? And going back to Minnesota. And I said, some people will hear excuses. Some people will hear an explanation. The difference between the two is accountability.
Yeah.
Does anybody dispute that?
Not anyone who has any idea about it.
So what I can't get my mind around is when somebody owns something, why do we still call it an excuse?
Because we don't like them.
No, maybe.
I think that's a lot of it. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I think that's a lot.
That's the part. Like that's the part.
Here's the other thing that
he very in detail explained NIL. And why, and I didn't even know how I was going to ask the question, but I just asked it. I was like, look, man, at one point you said we're good. Like, what are we talking about? But I knew, but after he gave his answer, I knew what the point of that answer was. He clearly wants Nebraska to be in a position of aggression, not
always scrambling to try and
defensive.
Yeah.
That's what I took at. But I am also privy to like sentiments, like if we're just sitting around at a volleyball game too, right? Like, so it doesn't bother me when he says that, because if it's to me and we're sitting around and we're watching, Vivi or Leona or somebody, he goes, man, this is a direct, I'm just going to say, it doesn't matter. What's he going to do? And he's like, this is MF in Nebraska. Like, Nebraska does this, and people were copying your strength and conditioning programs. And I'm talking to these coaches that used to pattern what they do after Nebraska. And I'm a scrubby walk on, just trying to tackle a guy by the ankles at Penn State. And that was my dream. And I'm looking at Nebraska like, that's why he has such reverence for like T4. You could just tell guys that
understood what Nebraska was and what it can be.
That he messes with, right? That don't always say like affirming, hey, they're going to win 10 games, but he knows that they believe as much as he does. So the thing for me is why am I so animate about wanting to see the success? it's, and I'm very clear on this. I've said this for 3 years. It's not because I like him. That's a byproduct. The reason that I liked him is because he loved this place before it was really lovable. And he was all in. So there's two things that get me to bristle up, right? The Penn State innuendos, because I know exactly how that thing shook out.
Yeah.
And I didn't need a middle person, right? Like, so why was it? And that's not what was happening. I don't know who told you guys that, but that's not what was happening. And it can't be a better source than the one I have, because I just saw that guy at the game. Can't be.
Yeah.
And he's not lying to me in front of that guy.
Yeah.
So we got to stop saying that.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I'm talking about when I say, but like, that's where the passion comes from in defending the program, because we're watching film together, and it's two highly thought of recruits. I walked in, he's on the clicker, his back's to me. And he'd said, come in, so whatever. And he's like, sit down, I'm just going through this film. These guys will be here, and whatever, they were going to be here. And so I would say, oh, this and footwork and, this and that. And he goes, at the end of the day, he goes, we just got to remember two things. Do you love football, and how tough are you? That's what I keep reminding myself, because you can see it all on like the dry erase boards and stuff. So when he's talking about toughness yesterday, like, I have a frame of reference of what he means. And I have to go back and listen to exactly what he said, but I have a frame of reference of what I think he's talking about. That's why I wanted clarity on what the pushback was
Also
from JP and that whole timeline, because I don't know if that's what he was saying or not.
I don't either. But to be clear, also, he was responding.
And I'm not defending a form. Like, listen, there's no winning and losing in terms of picking a side.
No,
right?
But if you tell me, hey, Jason is for the program, then that changes how I view his statement.
Yeah, but it doesn't. So
that doesn't mean he's right, but it changes how I.
And it doesn't mean he's got to be for the program. And I'm just using him as an example, the same way that I am.
Sure.
Like, I'm not an eternal optimist, but I do like the facts. I do like. Because I ultimately always want a solution. Even if I'm the screw up, like, I ultimately want the solution. Like, even if I got to walk out of a therapy session because I'm pissed, like, I still want a solution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's ultimately kind of what it boils down to. Are we in the solutions business? Like, he conceded. He said he didn't go into detail when he talked about the fit with the coaches, but he goes, hey, man, like, thinking about that defensive coordinator job, maybe I did err too much in wanting to keep continuity.
Well, and he said he thought he rushed it. I think that was part of it. He felt like he needed somebody. I think he said he would have been more patient.
Yeah, because of the continuity. So, I mean, it's just like, for me, like, he's owning that. But I also, but I have to be careful about judging other people, because I am. And I think I told you, I'm like, this is eating him alive. Like, the fronts versus the way that they practice versus. Oh,
you mean the decision on the D coordinator?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that conversation, because there was a
couple of days.
There was a guy that I wanted.
Yeah.
And I
don't even like, and I'm just telling you guys this because I don't really like, sometimes you can know too much. I just was bouncing the idea off of my co-host because I felt like the decision was pretty tough.
Sure.
And even at that moment, because he had so much of the affinity for Coach White, I understood kind of
what he was trying to do. So you asked me a question a second ago, and then we got to take a quick break here.
What time is it?
7:45.
I listen. Hey, I felt like I was listening for too long. Is that bad? Yeah, it's just.
I was talking for a hot minute there. Yeah. So you asked what kind of changes the way people perceive these things, and I quickly said whether they like somebody or not. That's the external answer. I feel like there's also an internal answer, and this is part of the reason I love sports and love processing through things like this. Like I grew up in a very conservative Christian evangelical home, right? And a lot of the way people talk about and teach in that sphere is talking about people justifying their actions, trying to find something within the Bible or teachings or whatever to justify whatever it is they want to do. And I never really understood that. But I think there's two different types of people. There's people that will try and find justifications for the way they want to act. And then there are people who will act based on what they feel is justified.
I've sat in service with people, and this, there's some that internalize and they'll be like, oh, he's talking to me. And then there'll be other people that are like, see, that's
he's talking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's pretty funny.
And so
and true.
There's like a lot of situations where it's like, okay, are you looking for information when Coach Rhule talks to justify how you already feel about the situation? Or are you going to change how you feel about the situation based on the information provided to you? I had this conversation with a buddy I went to Christian college with, and I was like, listen, man, my worldview shapes how I act. How I act doesn't shape my worldview, right? I'm not going to construct an entire worldview about what I believe based on how I want to act. That's crazy to me. What makes sense to me is, hey, if this is what I believe about the world, what does that tell you about how I should act? Right? Those are two very different things. And if you can figure out which one of those things someone believes, you will understand to a much greater degree how they're going to process information. And I think a lot of people told on themselves yesterday.
The Kia Summer Sticker Sales event is on at Edwards Kia. Lease the 2026 Kia Sportage Hybrid S all-wheel drive starting at $299 a month. Edwards Kia is on a winning streak. This June, the savings are as big as the season. We've also got the 2027 Kia Telluride S all-wheel drive starting at $469 a month. Don't wait. Slide into savings with the Edwards Kia Summer Sticker Sales event. Slide into savings at Edwards Hyundai. Finance the 2026 Hyundai Santa Fe at 0% for 72 months. This June, the savings are as big as the season. We've also got the 2026 Hyundai Kona SE all-wheel drive. Sign and drive starting at $287 a month with 0 down. Don't miss this pitch. Slide into savings at Edwards Hyundai. It's time to slide into savings at Edwards Nissan. Lease the 2026 Nissan Rogue Platinum starting at $379 a month, a platinum lease worth driving home. This June, the savings are as big as the season. We've also got the 2026 Nissan Pathfinder SV starting at $399 a month, while supplies last. Don't miss your pitch. slide into savings at Edwards Nissan.
The fine folks at Next Gen, they are so good. And I get it. You see male in the name. It doesn't have to just be for men. It can be for your significant others, your daughters, whatever works for you. They are equal opportunity. Great, easy location. The phone number 402-614-9700. From at-home tests to peptides to ED, whatever you need to feel better about you, make sure you visit the fine folks at Next Gen. Again, 402-614-9700.
There we go. Coach, how we doing this morning?
We're doing well. We're doing well.
Yeah, I'll say. Let me start with so that's the easy, fruitful stuff. How impressed? Because I'll just be honest, I felt like he left a little meat on the bone in college because she's uber talented. You had to be super proud of Caleb Smith and kind of what he's been able to do on the world stage, right?
Yeah. We had some guys wrestling in the Pan Am games last weekend, and it was really good. Caleb took second place. He's kind of up a weight class right now for Team Puerto Rico. We have some diversity. Mikey Lavarola, who's now coaching, was a 4-time All-American for us, is wrestling also for Team Puerto Rico. And he's coaching at Rutgers, so he wrestled last weekend. And then obviously Liam Cronin and Rich Lovett did a great job last weekend. So we had a squad over there.
Yeah, my unusual, unhealthy affinity for Rich Lovett. Well, I was in a really bad mood one day. Imagine that, Coach. And it was during spring, and you had all your guys doing signings, and she took it upon herself. You guys were right outside her old studio. She went and got Ridge, and she's like, "Yeah, he's kind of being a crab apple, a little." Well, I think she called me a crybaby. She's like, "Since you're his favorite, you got to give him a morning hug." And Ridge was like all in, and I was like, "Oh, my day feels better."
Yeah.
I guess crazy news. You were bringing back a fair amount. You had some depth to fill. I won't call them holes and be disrespectful, but you were able to be aggressive in the portal early. Mm-hmm. Like, what was the method to the madness?
We just felt we wanted you have a team with guys like Christopher Mento, Antrell Taylor, Cam McDaniel, Jacob Van D, who are multiple All-Americans, and giving ourselves a chance to really, run down Oklahoma State, Penn State, Iowa, obviously, Ohio State. They're, all the big guns. So we're a couple of these guys sought out us more than we sought out them, which is very, really refreshing, right? We weren't chasing after Vincent Robinson. I think took one visit, and that was to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's going to fit in very well. He knows a lot of our guys on our team already. I've known his dad for 30 plus years. And this business, relationships still matter. And Vincent was, the first one on board, and then it took us 30 some more days to get two other guys. So obviously Anthony Echemendia and Lucas Cochran. It took us a long time. Guys taking visits. Our portal, runs 30 days, but then they still have time to go on however many visits they want. So it takes a long time, man. It's excruciating. I'm not gonna lie. It was a grind.
So your growth, I kind of feel this way about Coach Ravel too. We talked to her last week, and she started the same time I did in Lincoln. And I remember she kind of had this. I told her, I said, I was kind of a little intimidated, very, very businessy and super competitive. Much like when we listen to you talk, we hear this humility, very gracious. And we watch you coach. And I mean, sometimes I think those bricks could get thrown out of the god dang the gymnasium with the vigor you can throw those with. How did you like grown into this guy? I think that you don't mind the portal, you know how to navigate it, but you haven't really compromised. You got to walk me through like your personality versus having to evolve.
Yeah, I think it's a credit to our guys. Our guys do a great job of identifying the guys that need to be in our program, that want to be on our program, that are going to be great fits. A lot of people talk about fit, and I think our guys know which guys will work, and they do a really good job when kids come in for visits and parents come. They do a good job of saying, "Listen, this guy's our guy, man." And that's what happened with Vincent Robinson. We already kind of knew. I mean, Ridge and Antrell have done camps with him the last couple of years, and just the familiarity with his dad. I've known his dad back when my Northern Iowa days. I recruited a young man out of the south side of Chicago, Tony Davis, who was a national champ for me. So I knew Vasil then, and it's just a great fit for us. And then Anthony and Lucas, we went after those guys really hard. And Anthony, he found a place in here that he feels is home. And our guys just do a great job on the visits, and then they just let us know. And we kind of know too. It's just the traits they have, the culture we've developed at Nebraska. People know how they're going to get coached and how they're going to get developed. And they might not get the biggest bag, but they know it's the best place for them to be at their best, and for them to seek their goals. And we've had a lot of guys continue to do great stuff, on the international level. And our RTC is alive and well. For the people that don't understand that, that's our Major League Baseball. That's our NFL, is being a world Olympic champion. And we have guys on our team that came here because they believe, listen, I'm going to be the next James Green. I'm going to be the next Jordan Burroughs. And so we place guys in that position, so they know we're committed 12 months out of the year. And some of these guys that are joining us, that's what they want.
Coach, you mentioned fit a couple times there as you're talking about getting guys out of the transfer portal. And I'm always fascinated to kind of dive into coaches and evaluators thinking, especially in sports that have a pretty heavy individual quality to them, right? Obviously, like when you're out there on the mat, you're by yourself. You can't get a teammate to help you out there. So I always find it really interesting how you process through fit and its importance in a sport where, yes, you spend a ton of time together, but out on the mat, you are by yourself.
Yeah. I think I equate it a lot to other sports. You look at softball, right? You guys just got done talking about Rhonda and Lori and those guys over at softball. I'm really good friends with them, and so happy for them. And you look at Jordy Fromm or Jensen, the other pitcher they have. You're recruiting someone that's going to control the game. That pitcher is going to control the game. Same with Will and Rob Childress. The pitcher is a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. So you're really out there. You're controlling the game. Same thing with our guys. We have 10 weight classes. Each guy that goes out there, they're controlling their own destiny. They're controlling our team too. And so it's a lot like that. You're looking for leadership when you recruit these guys, and you're, also looking for, do they want to continue to get better? They want to get coached hard. They want transparency with the relationship they have with the coaches, and then just the bond of our guys on our team. It's contagious. Our guys are up in the room here at 9:00 today, and we don't have to tell our whole team to be here at 9. They just show up. There's 25 guys in the room right now, so there's a work ethic, and there's that's important. Sometimes people talk about it, but you got to be about it. So we attract the guys that want to be about it, and they want to put the work in, and they want to be their best.
Coach, how important is it? Because you want to get a little bit of a head start, and I get it. A lot of the peer recruiting has been pretty impressive. That means you actually have quality guys that other people want to be around too. But how important is it that you get a firm understanding of actually how you do your day-to-days, right? Because it is highly competitive in your room. It's not probably going to be for the faint of heart as competitive as it is. Do you feel like you have a pretty good gauge on how they're going to handle the actual day-to-day rigor of being on the mat?
Yeah. I think when we go to recruit, just their background, their club coach, their high school coaches, the environment they've come through and been developed on at a young age, you really get to know kind of what they're about and what their ceiling is. And when you're the big fish in the small pond, from the standpoint, if I'm the best in Nebraska 4 years in a row, well, I got to be the best in 50 states, not just one state. And so there's a jump when you go from high school to college, and bigger, stronger, faster, everyone's good. And so if I want to be the best in the nation, and I want to be the best in the Big Ten, there's a whole nother jump that you have to embrace. And that's where the mental attitude comes in to play is, do I really want to make that jump? Well, you know what? That takes sitting behind someone maybe for a year or two. I'm very frank with our guys that, we have 11 high school kids coming in this summer. Yeah. And it's really cool. And you might have to, I'm very honest in the recruiting process. You might have to sit a couple of years. Well, high school kids aren't used to sitting. And, there's some states where you could compete as a 7th or 8th grade, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota. And so when you're used to being the big dog and then you're sitting out, that challenges you, to be, do I really love this thing? And you gotta love it, and you gotta keep your goals, present, and you're going to be challenged. If you could be, 3-time All-American, but you didn't get to wrestle all 4 years, and because you got beat out or someone's in front of you, that's a challenge. And some kids don't want that. And we lost a couple guys to a portal for that very reason. It's just patience. And most of the time, people don't want patience. They want to be, hey, you recruited me. I should be the starter. Well, there's competition. And that's what you mean when you got to get the right type of guys. Cause sometimes, we all need development, and some people aren't willing to take the time to really understand what true development is. True development is sometimes sitting behind and watching and learning and taking it in, the mental growth you need, and to understand, what, do I love this? I'm going to do it, 6 days a week. And I'm going to really put my heart into it. And that's takes a different testimony to be in your best.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It was one of the things that drew me to guys like Lamer last year, right? It's a little bit of a slow burn. And
Yeah.
Definitely out wrestled his seed line. He saved his best for last. I look at a guy like Van D, where
Yes.
it's you see what's in there, and I was like, oh, sometimes he's not quite healthy, or just trying to get over the hump, or just battling. He's going to be firmly positioned at like 133, where you can just see guys that may be positioned to get the next step. I talked to you off season last year about Minto, and maybe last year being the step. Like, do you see that with your guys in terms of how they're carrying themselves on the day to day?
Yeah, Damon, that's a great question. It's absolutely we do. We see it from the standpoint of them showing up and then them putting in the work, and how much they want to get better, being intentional, like any sport. Are they intentional when they come to practice, or do they go through the motion, right? Do they understand, we have days of the week during our season, we call them ownership. You got to take ownership of your own development. Sometimes I know what I need to get better at. Or do I need to get on the bike, or do I need to get on the treadmill and get in better shape? Right. So got to know where your weaknesses are, and you got to attack them. And, sometimes that's all development. And, we're big on that. We challenge our guys, and, we have the right mentality. We got guys in the room that love it, and it's attractive to other guys. I mean, Anthony Echemania came in our room. He's come over here 3 times and never on an official visit. He paid his own way. He come over here 3 times, and he just loves the room. He just, wow, there's a different energy. There's a different vibe, and the guys are working. He sees, man, this is the place for me. And so it's really good. And I think Lucas Cochran felt the same thing. He came from Penn State. Obviously, they have a legendary, historic run going on. And he sees that commitment. He's like, man, I want to be a part of this. So it's really good. It's really fun to be a part of. And really, how about Husker Athletics right now? Just killing it. And I think, what Will and Rhonda has got going on in their programs is, it's electric.
I look at a guy, just the traits that you're describing and knowing your personality for so long. One of the many reasons that I fell in love with a guy like Cade Ziola so early, because remember I told, even when he was in high school and we were talking to you, I said, he's a guy that I gravitated towards because it was never easy for him. In middle school, he was never the best. Freshman, sophomore, it was like, but like he just stays on the gas. Now he's got a heck of an opening. And he's a good ambassador for a young guy for your program, right? Because he sleeps and eats wrestling and loves Nebraska. And it's never been always rainbows and butterflies for him. Like, you can't draw it up any better, but you sure can take advantage of it, can't you?
Yeah, that's a great example. Cade is, another guy obviously well. Antrell Taylor was the same way. Really, we didn't have to beat many of the big schools out. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Antrell was probably, if you would have got it recruited by football, he might have went. Yeah. But thank goodness he wasn't big enough. But
that used to piss him off.
Yeah. That's right, because he has that mentality. I'm the best, man. I'm the best, definitely in Omaha. And I think that's that competitiveness. What you're talking about. Same with Cade, is he sees himself like, listen, I'm the best out there.
Yeah,
and that's the approach he takes, and it's just that gets you up in the morning. That, as a coach, that's the element that you want to have in your program. Guys that are they're reaching for more. They're just not satisfied by being the starter. They're wanting to be the best in the country. And Antrell and Cade, that's a perfect example of guys that we want and that we're trying to attract. And I think, guys like Vincent Robinson and Anthony and Lucas are all guys that fit from that very purpose. When
you're all said and done and we're sitting around and you let me come over, we're out sitting in that front yard, I want the big chapter of the behind the scenes of Cade and AJ and that heavyweight deal and like just managing that situation, Coach, man. You gotta put that as part of your tell-all. Would be respectful, but I'm dying to get behind the scenes of that one.
It'll definitely be a chapter for sure.
Coach, as you're dealing with young guys that you think have obviously a lot of upside, guys like the Cade Ziolas, you mentioned 11 freshmen in your incoming class from high school as well. Like, do you find yourself sort of needing to manage your own expectations as well when you see a super talented guy, but you're like, hey, maybe he could help us here, but probably not best for him to get started right away? Like, do you find yourself having to navigate that much at all?
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's kind of the joy in us as coaches. Definitely for me, I love that aspect of when we know we have a guy that's not going to probably be the guy wrestling at the end of the year at the Big Tens and Nationals. That year of development, spending time with them, getting to know what they're all about, challenging them in their mind, in their mindset. A lot of kids they're just the best because they're most talented, or they've gone to a lot of tournaments. They know a lot of moves. Just like in football, you're the biggest, you're the strongest, you're the baddest. Well, and this thing is the same deal. You got to be intentional with your work ethic, and you have to have elite skill. You have to develop those into elite skills. And, and then just the mindset. I love that. Just sitting with guys and figuring out what they think, how they perceive something, how they perceive college, how they perceive their opponents, and, it's a really interesting take. That's why I love doing this. I love getting in the room with those young guys and just chatting it up, seeing what they are all about, challenging them in practice and in what they're doing skill wise, and then letting them roll and trying to figure it out.
I think I'm glad you said that. Last one for me. I'll try to tie it 2 in 1. Last time we had you, we were talking about like the international flair, and is there an opening? And you've spent so much time overseas where establishing connections, is there a way to capitalize? And there's so much talent. You referenced the athleticism, but pitting it against rigor. How important, because I think we're missing the fact it's so explosive now. There are so many things you see on the mat that you wouldn't have seen 4 or 5 years ago. Are we missing the point where you guys as coaches have to evolve to stylistically to not harnessing athleticism, but pitting it along or putting it with fundamentals? Or is it just kind of I don't know, this is kind of a whole new world. We're along for the ride. What you see on the mats with the scoring and the athleticism is incredible now.
Yeah, I think that's why fan bases are growing for wrestling. You look at the NCAA tournament. We had a lot of freshmen win national titles.
Yeah,
never before. I mean, Jax Forrest from Oklahoma State was basically in his senior year.
Yeah,
basically, this is unheard of.
It doesn't appear to be slowing down, by the way.
No, he's really good, and we try to recruit him hard. So
he did get beat a couple weeks ago, which was surprising, but he's human.
Yeah, exactly. And there's guys ready to go right away, and I think it's just a credit to a lot of things out there. RTCs, young kids can go to college practices, and which is really good for the development
Yeah.
side. And for all our age group, we have obviously U17 World Championships, U20, and so I think all that really helps guys get ready for the big stage, and they're used to wrestling on the big stage. And so when they get to college, it's not a big deal. They're prepared in their mind, and I think that goes a long way, and in their development.
Coach, how cool has it been? I fibbed. There's got one more.
Okay.
I hear, Troy Dannon has used the word nimble. You've used the word nimble. Coach Rhule's used the word nimble. Coach Ravel used the word nimble with the rules, the athletic department being appreciative of kind of the malleability of Troy Dannon's leadership. Are you ready to look back and say with financial commitments where you're like, you know what, I can appreciate a vision. Like we're doing the best we can to support one of the best sports we have on campus, because as you know, it is difficult to keep finding resources.
Yeah, we're absolutely, Damon, this, we want to always retain our best guys on our team. I mean, and I'm sure of, Antrell Taylor and Christopher Mento and even Cam McDaniel probably were all approached or DM'd up about, a bit more money. And actually, two of these guys we got that are coming in, they took less offer because they know here's the place where they can be developed, the energy, the atmosphere we've created, and it's really credit to our guys. And so I think the days of just recruiting, getting guys is it's easy. It's a really hard thing to do, but now you got to retain them. You got to have donors. You got to have people that are willing to support the mission. And, I got a call from someone that's a very high person in Lincoln here that is very well respected, that contributed 50 grand yesterday, and I can't thank them enough, just out of the blue. And that's the day in life of Mark Manning right now. You gotta fundraise too. And I've had a lot of talks with Rhonda and Will, and yeah, it's just a different role we've got on our plate right now. Is we got to fundraise. We got to be able to retain our best guys and be able to attract other people that are going to help build our program. And so it's a real thing out there, and it's people throw a lot of numbers around. I was just in a meeting about a month ago at Big Ten's. Big Ten, we get Big Ten wrestling meetings once a year. We all meet in a room, and Tony Petiti, our commissioner from Big Ten, comes in, and he was talking about this very deal, NIL, right? And he said the Texas Tech guy, I can't exactly remember, the oil guy that supports Texas Tech football, right? And I think he supported the women's softball pitcher they got from Oregon, right, 2 years ago. Yeah. He was talking about, Tony, I thought this, revenue share was $20.5 million. I thought we were all on even playing field, but I'm paying $50 million for my team. Wow. And he said, I'll be willing to pay 60 if it goes up. And that's a guy that's committed to Texas Tech athletics, whether he's helping softball, but he obviously helps football. And look at what he's doing. Look at what he's doing, the impact he's having on that program. And you need people. I mean, Penn State wrestling has that guy, and Iowa wrestling has that guy. Oklahoma State now has that guy, Chad Richardson, who's really gracious with his money and his funding, and he believes in the sport, and he's just putting his money where his mouth is, right? And it's a real thing in college athletics, and it takes people that are committed and people that are gracious with their, they've had the gift of being able to have financial help that not many of us do, and they say, "Hey, I want to support this mission. I want to support these young men and young women in different sports that are trying to excel at the highest level, and they see the need, and it's great." So.
Coach Manning, last one for me here. DB was talking about kind of the European and worldwide influence coming into the sport. I'm a big tennis fan, and one of the big kind of issues in college tennis right now is you've got a bunch of people coming in from overseas, and they're 23, 24, 25 years old and taking a ton of spots that would normally go to typical age college kids, and not even just necessarily U.S. college kids, but guys and gals coming right out of high school. Is that something you even have the luxury to worry about in terms of what's good for the sport at the collegiate level? Or is it just like, hey, I got to compete with the Penn States and the Iowas and the Oklahoma States who all have their guys. I don't really get the luxury of thinking about what's good for college wrestling as a whole.
No, it's
That's fast.
I think there's a new rule that people say it might get passed here this month or here this summer, 5x5.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an age limit on that. You can't be past, I believe it's 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't bring in someone, or if you brought someone in that was 22 or 23, they only have 1 year of eligibility maybe. So, I know tennis is there's a lot of international stars in that, and I know both of our tennis programs do that, and they recruit foreign kids, and I think it's just creating opportunities for young men and women, regardless of where they're from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes America the best. No other, we're not sending people over to wherever, Paris, France, to play volleyball, right?
Yeah, they're coming here.
Not in college.
Mm-hmm.
That college education means something, and we need to keep it vibrant in America. We're screwing it up, to say the least. We need, whether it's Congress, because I don't think the NCAA is doing as much. They're worried about lawsuits all the time. We need college athletics to be. We need to keep the values where they are. I mean, we're screwing it up. We can't mess this thing up. I mean, the impact of young people is what our future of America. I mean, it sounds crazy when people are like, "Oh man, he's saying this." Listen, you could you do a study in 10 years on just say football? Well, Nebraska, probably Ohio State, USC are all probably recruiting 10 or less high school kids a year. Hang on. Not that long ago, they're recruiting 30 high school kids a year. So where's that 20 or 25 guys times 18 times the SEC times the Big 12 times the ACC?
Yep.
Where are all those high school kids going? When you look at it that way, this thing is there's where the effect's going to be. I'm not sure, but it's going to affect a lot of young people, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a positive way.
I hope we're wrong, Coach, but this is anecdotally, we looked at the draft the last 4 years in the NFL of FCS guys versus FBS and how the numbers have dwindled over the last 4 years. We thought that there was eventually going to be a bump because not everybody can, some people have to transfer down. right? There's just
Yeah.
not going to be enough room. So I'm hoping
Yes.
in 10 or 11 years, the study shows that those people, they found homes and, group of fives and
Yeah.
and D2, like that's the place where folks are flourishing. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
That might be a little myopic, but they have to go somewhere at some point, right?
Yes. I mean, what the numbers don't lie, right? What 9,000 football players were in the portal. I think 4,000 didn't get picked up, or I mean, that's what the NCAA needs to look at, or some committee, or I mean, it's in a lot of sports. That's where it's going. We need to make sure we keep this sacred, because we're the only country in the world that offers a college education along with being able to participate in athletics, and we can't miss that element up. I mean, it's got too much about the money, and it should be about developing. If a young man or woman goes to 3 or 4 different schools in 20 years, where are they going to take their family back to? Oh, I'm taking them back to Oklahoma. I'm taking them to Wyoming. I'm taking them to Nebraska. Wherever it is, where's home? What's the place that helped you be your best? What's the people that help you be your best? And so, I don't know. People probably say that's old school, but listen, old school works.
What a walk-off. Old school works. Coach, we appreciate it. As always, great talking to you. I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
When you guys are wrestling in those T-shirts, save me one. Old school work.
I love it. I'm going to create one.
Hey, we've got a merch company if you need some help.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Coach. We'll see
Go
you.
Huskers.
Make this the summer event at Edwards Jeep and Ram, Council Bluffs and Village Point. Lease the 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport S starting at $289 a month. Built for the road and ready for summer. This June, the savings are as big as the season. We've also got the 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn starting at $399 a month, or finance at 2.9% APR for 72 months. Don't miss this pitch. Slide into savings at Edwards Jeep and Ram, Council Bluffs and Village Point. It's time to slide into savings at Edwards Chevrolet. Lease the 2026 Chevy Trax LT for just $349 a month, $0 down with your first payment due at signing. 2 great Chevys, one big June event. Slide into a 2026 Chevy Equinox LT for just $399 a month, $0 down with your first payment due at signing. Get to Edwards Chevrolet today. Together, let's drive.